Lukeov Skyworker, a desert farm boy turned communist revolutionary, was armed not with the Force but with Marx's theory, a power so useless it almost doomed the entire cause not once but twice. In part one of our tale, his missed shot on the capitalist prophet star led to the destruction of Stalingrad and the entire Bolshevik alliance. By sheer miracle of plot armor, the rebels resurfaced on Hothgrad in Part 2, only to spectacularly fail again. With Ivan Solo frozen in carbonite, the shattered Bolsheviks return once more to the desert world where our story first began, Tatooine-grad. The revolution had reached its darkest hour. Comrade Ivan Solo remained frozen in carbonite, displayed in the palace of Jabba the oligarch, a legitimate businessman with absolutely no ties to organized crime, according to his lawyers. Princess Leia Organanovich had infiltrated the palace disguised as a bounty hunter, while Lukeov Skyworker prepared for a rescue mission that would mark the beginning of his transformation from idealistic revolutionary to something far more sinister. A hooded figure approached the palace gates. Lukeov Skyworker had changed. Gone were the days of endless theoretical debates about the finer points of Marxism with Yotovich. His negotiations with Jabba were refreshingly direct. "Release my friends," Lukeov declared, "and I will allow you to retain some assets in the post-revolutionary economy." Jabba, confident in his market position, attempted to feed the young revolutionary to his pet Rancor. What happened next defied all economic models. Instead of fighting the beast, Lukeov sat down and explained the principles of labor exploitation to the creature. The Rancor, finally understanding that it had been working for scraps while Jabba profited from its performances, joined the revolution on the spot. Jabba's last words, as he was gently deposited into the Sarlacc pit, were a desperate plea about his rights as a legitimate businessman. The crowd cheered uncertainly as Lukeov announced mandatory re-education seminars for all citizens of Tatooine. With his friends rescued, Lukeov set course for his next destination, the remote planet of Stalingrad, where an ancient master waited to teach him the true art of revolutionary warfare. Meanwhile, the Empire's war machine had reached peak efficiency through strategic corporate partnerships. The second Prophet Star, now fully operational and sponsored by a consortium of galactic megacorporations, broadcast advertisements between planetary bombardments. TIE fighters bore the logos of 17 different brands. Imperial officers wore uniforms with subtle product placements, and even the Emperor's throne room featured a discreet banner reading, "This galactic oppression brought to you by Coca-Cola Classic, the real thing." The planet Stalingrad was a frozen wasteland where the temperature never rose above -50 degrees. Here, in a bunker carved from solid ice, lived Master Stalin, the last practitioner of the ancient art of revolutionary combat. Unlike Yotovich, who had spent decades theorizing about revolution while living in a swamp, Master Stalin had actually won one. His training methods were unorthodox. Where Yotovich had made Lukeov carry books through bog water, Stalin made him carry actual weapons through actual battlefields. "Theory without practice is useless," Stalin growled, his voice like grinding tank treads. The training was brutal. Lukeov learned to wield not just a lightsaber, but the more practical arts of political elimination. Stalin taught him the 17 different ways to liquidate class enemies, the proper technique for conducting show trials, and most importantly, how to identify counter-revolutionary tendencies in former allies. Your greatest enemies will not be the capitalists you fight, but the comrades who helped you win. Meanwhile, the Bolshevik alliance prepared for their final assault on the Prophet Stars. Admiral Ackbarov commanded the fleet from his flagship. Princess Leia and the strike team prepared to disable the shield generator on the forest moon of Endorgrad, where they would encounter the native Ewoks, a primitive species that had somehow developed a sustainable communist society without reading a single page of Marx. As Lukeov completed his training, Stalin presented him with a graduation gift. "Remember," Stalin said, "the revolution is never complete until all who remember the old ways are gone." He departed Stalingrad a changed man, ready to rejoin his comrades for what they believed would be their final victory over the Empire. They had no idea they were about to witness the birth of something far worse. The Battle of Endorgrad began exactly as planned. The Bolshevik fleet engaged the Prophet Star's defenses. On the forest moon below, Princess Leia's strike team launched their assault on the shield generator. In the Emperor's throne room, The final confrontation unfolded with predictable corporate efficiency. Tsar Palpatine and Darth Vader attempted to seduce Lukeov with offers of stock options, executive positions, and a comprehensive benefits package including dental coverage. But Lukeov had learned different lessons from Master Stalin. Instead of being tempted by capitalist incentives, he simply activated his red lightsaber and eliminated both Sith Lords with the clinical efficiency of a well-planned purge. After quickly defeating the capitalist menace, Lukeov seized control of the Proft Star's communication array and broadcast a message that chilled the blood of every Bolshevik in the galaxy. Comrades, his voice echoed across all frequencies. The time for half measures has ended. Capitalism will fall, but so too must all traces of the old order. Admiral Ackbarov, monitoring communications from his flagship, had just enough time to utter his famous phrase, "It's a trap," before Lukov's commandeered Imperial fleet opened fire on the rebel ships. Ackbarov's vessel was disabled and boarded. The Admiral was taken alive, for Lukov had special plans for him. On Endorgrad, Princess Leia watched in horror as the Prophet Star's weapons turned not toward the Imperial fleet, but toward the moon itself. The destruction of Endor was swift and thorough. An entire species that had achieved perfect socialist harmony was vaporized in minutes, along with Leia, Chewbacca, and the rest of the strike team. The Prophet Stars were quickly rebranded as re-education moons, their planet-destroying capabilities repurposed for more constructive uses. The Great Purge began immediately. Lukeov, now styling himself Supreme Commissar of Galactic Liberation, established his headquarters aboard the primary re-education moon. His first order of business was the systematic elimination of all who had known him before his enlightenment. Admiral Ackbarov, the veteran strategist who had led countless battles for freedom, was brought before the Supreme Commissar in chains. "You have been found guilty of counter-revolutionary naval tactics and excessive competence without proper ideological supervision." The execution was both theatrical and practical. A massive pot of boiling water was prepared in the throne room's center. As Ackbarov was lowered into the cauldron, Lukeov explained the symbolism to his audience. "Just as we must boil away the impurities of the old order, so too must we consume the lessons of our former comrades." He ate Admiral Ackbarov with melted butter and a side of revolutionary rhetoric. R2-Gruski had embraced his new role with mechanical enthusiasm, equipped with an expanded memory bank for maintaining lists of enemies of the state. His built-in flamethrower, once used for repairs, now served a more sinister purpose. C3KGB had been promoted to Minister of Truth, constantly revising historical records to reflect the Supreme Commissar's evolving interpretation of events. As the galaxy settled into its new order of revolutionary terror, Lukeov required competent administrators for his expanding network of re-education moons. It was then that fate delivered to him the perfect candidate, Anatoly DYATLOV. DYATLOV was appointed chief engineer of the primary re-education moon. His first inspection of the facility was typically confident. "Death Stars don't explode, Comrade Commissar. It is physically impossible." And for once in his life, it would seem Comrade DYATLOV was correct. Years passed under the Supreme Commissar's iron rule. The galaxy had been transformed into a vast network of re-education moons, labor camps, and propaganda centers. But in the ethereal realm where the spirits of dead Marxists dwelt, one ghost watched the proceedings with growing concern. "This isn't real communism," Konobovich muttered to himself. He seemed genuinely puzzled by how his decades of Marxist indoctrination had somehow produced a galactic dictator. Konobovich faded away to find his next victim, a young scavenger named Rey, who would surely benefit from proper theoretical education. After all, what could possibly go wrong with giving force powers to another emotionally unstable, desert orphan, and filling their head with revolutionary ideology? The galaxy held its breath in anticipation.